Okay, let's discuss libraries for early childhood classrooms. Please excuse the lighting. Everyone in my home is currently asleep. How I choose library books for my classroom. Um, I'm always one aware of the theme, like what theme are we on right now? What unit are we on right now? But regardless of the unit, if we're talking about construction, there will be lots of construction books in there. But in my library, you will always find alphabet books, number books, um, books about culture, so that my students, when they go to the library, they see books that represent them. They see themselves in books. I think that's super important to me, that they see themselves in that way, in a positive light, coming through books, that they see themselves represented. Maybe some um, culture books that may be talking about like traditions and holidays, and they can relate to that, right? They can make that connection there. Um, Always making sure to keep picture books in my library. So no matter the unit, or even if it's not a unit book, that student that may not be identifying letters or numbers yet, they can still access books and they can still have a good time with books. So they can do lots of picture walks. They can retell me the story just with the pictures. I'm always sure to always also have like Disney books in my library, or whatever character or thing that a lot of my students are into. Like I want them to go to the library and like really enjoy being there. Like they're getting these books off the shelves and it's meaningful for them. They're saying something they like. They're saying something they can relate to, or they're saying something that we're learning about all through the classroom. And just know that, the learning is not happening when we're sitting on a carpet or when we're in small groups. That learning is happening in the library as well. Also keep social emotional books over there, just, as an extra bonus for students to get an extra little read or picture walk through and learn how they can regulate their emotions. Those are always good choices to have in the library, as well as student-made books. So if they get letter books to go for homework, I'll laminate the things that they bring back and put in the library so they can have a sense of ownership in the books that are chosen in the library as well. How well do these books represent the culture within my classroom? I always try to have books that, represent who we are. So, like, most of my students are Black, and there will be positive books in the library about, Black people, Black children, Black families. But there are times where I've had like Hispanic students in my classroom, and I've always um, put over books that represent them as well. I just feel like it's important for them to see things that they connect to in books. And then I also, even if we're not on the culture unit, I think it's still important to still have other cultures represented in the library, whether those students are, you have students of that ethnicity or not in your classroom, because you want to expose your kids to things that they've never seen before, things they've never done or heard of before. So I'm really big on keeping a variety of things in the library and exposing my students to different things. Like I want them to ask questions about things they see in books so we can have that conversation. Um, what purpose do books play? Oh, books play a major purpose. Like you learn so much through books, even when you can't read. Like I said, I want them to have these conversations with me, asking Miss Harrison, like, what is this? How does it work? Like something that they find in a book that excites them. Books play a major role, right? Identifying letters. Okay, today you are working on the letter E. I want you to go through these books. I want you to point out every time you see the letter E. Like it's just showing them that we don't just see letters on these flashcards, right? Or on up posted around the room when we're learning the letters. We see letters everywhere. Like letters have meaning in our real life. We have to know these letters to know how to read. So books play a major purpose, major. Um, how can I assure that children have access to books while learning online? I always encourage my families to get library cards and go to the local library and check out books. We also, our school library was also giving out books to kids. So I would just message my parents, remind my parents, hey, don't forget to check out some books from the library. Doesn't cost you anything. You can come up to the school, pick them up, you can swap them out. We have days of the weeks and times for that. And then every other week, I will call all the parents to the screen and just remind them of how they can check out the books from the school library. So I would share my screen with them and let them know that those things were accessible to them. Okay, now let's move on to one of my students' favorite books, and it's actually one of my favorite books as well. I'm going to share my screen here. And that book is Pete the Cat, Rockin' in My School Shoes. So it's one of the kids' favorite books, and it's also one of my favorite books to read with my kids. I like this book for a lot of reasons, right? It's catchy, they love the song, it is predictable. This book has rhyming words in this book. And this book is also something they can relate to. Like the kids love, they're like, I'm wearing my school shoes. I wear my school shoes to the library. I wear my school shoes in the lunchroom, on the playground. So, this just becomes a part of us all year. They love this book. This is one book I try to read early on in the school year, within the first few weeks of school. You want kids to get acclimated to school. You want them to enjoy being there and just making it fun. The audience is, obviously, it's intended for younger children. The strengths of this book, I feel like I named a few. That it's a predictable book, right? So they can make the prediction. It asks questions within the text. So it's not like a book where I'm scaffolding out so many questions, or I'm pulling aside so many questions, writing them down to know where I want to stop and pause my reading and ask these questions. This book asks questions along the way, so it's challenging students to be thinking and paying attention to what's happening. They're not just listening, they're actively listening because they have to answer questions. I couldn't really find a weakness within this book, but if you guys have one, please share and bring that to my attention. And how can I incorporate this in my classroom? Well, I have incorporated this book into my classroom in a variety of ways. In the art center, we are painting Pete's school shoes, or we're drawing our own school shoes. How else have we done this? They've gotten a chance to go to the writing center, and they write about what they do in their school shoes. So they can draw a picture of themselves, draw a picture of their shoes, what their shoes looks like, and draw a place in the building that's their favorite place to go, or their favorite thing to do in their school shoes. So we bring Pete in a few of our centers in our classroom, and we can draw with this story, we can write about this story. It's a few different things, but this is one that my students love the most, and I enjoy reading this book with them as well.